Tonight on Country Squire Radio, it's an especially special episode because we're doing it a little bit longer than normal. That's right, we are talking about pipe culture and specifically pipe smoking archetypes. All feedback from you. Plus, we've got quick fire questions, listener feedback, and pipe question of the week that you're not going to want to miss. Stick around, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it all begins when I say the magic words. Welcome to Country Squire Radio. I'm Beau.
And I'm John David.
JD.
Hey, Beau. Good evening, dude.
Man, good evening to you. How are you doing tonight?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. I was actually close to being on time tonight, which is amazing. And you know, for the folks at the live show that always like to chime in, I want to. I just love this. It's about 30 minutes before the show starts. Portland Paul says 30 minutes until JD is late. And man, I just want to tell you how almost right you were tonight.
Well, here's the thing, because I don't know how many people will know this, but that's almost retro, because back in the day, we used to be a morning show. We used to be
wow.
A
lot of people. I wonder how many of our current folks go back to us that far with us that far. But yeah, I mean, I was we met at like 9 o'clock or something.
Yeah,
I was a consistent like pull up to Beau's driveway at like 9:03.
Yeah. It was part of almost.
It was really lame. Gag. Yeah, I just don't do mornings. You know, the joke around here is the shop opens at 10 o'clock. And I get to the shop at 10:05. So I probably need to change the time of the opening at the shop to like 10:15-ish. Like actually put ish on the schedule. But then I know myself well enough to know that I'll use that as an excuse to get here at 10:25.
Yeah,
and then I'll have, you know, at some point, some old man wanting his pound of Cherokee pipe tobacco is going to follow me to my home and literally beat the crap out of me.
No, man, they camp out outside the door like there's a new iPhone at the Apple Store.
I know. Right.
They all got to get the next blend from the Country Squire.
Man. That's it.
No, but no, of course we do thank you all for being here, joining us. Those of you who are tuning in live, this is a special kind of live episode tonight. Because we are going on hiatus for the next 2 weeks for the live show. Now, of course, the podcast will be here as per usual. But for the next 2 weeks, there will be no live show before we return at our new time. I want to tell you guys, this is just for the live show, by the way, that what I'm about to say is going to be cut out of the podcast. Tonight's episode is going to feel a little bit different. You know, those of you who tune in for the live show, you know how this works. You see how the sausage is made. In many respects, you have seen us at our worst. You know what?
Yeah, literally.
No, not even many respects. You've just, if you're seeing us
and
now,
you use your digital airbrushing to make us appear presentable.
Yeah,
and sound presentable.
That's how it works. That's how it works. But tonight it's going to be interesting. So we talked about it actually earlier today with the subject matter that we're going to be talking about tonight. You guys sent so much input in tonight that what we are going to attempt to do for the live show is essentially have a very long episode, which will end up being cut into 2 episodes. Hopefully it will make sense as we get closer in. But just so you know, up front, out of the gate, it's going to be a long one tonight.
Yeah.
If you're in for it for the long haul, welcome. Pull up a glass of whatever it is you're drinking and,
Hope don't spill it over your computer.
Don't spill it over the computer.
Yeah, that would be recommended.
Am I risking things by putting it over here?
Hey, you're not risking any of my things. I just want to make sure. The good thing, if you left it where it was, if your hand flies, it's kind of going the opposite direction of the technology. No, I think like Beau had mentioned, the response to this was just so prolific. We'll kind of get into some of this in a minute. But anyway, we're gonna try to attempt to do something. So hang in there with us.
You'll see how it goes. Consider the curtain pulled back.
We'll see how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey man, we've got a lot of great stuff that's actually going on around the pipe world. Of course, actually on beyond kind of the home base here, March 9th, if you are in the Austin, Texas area, we are going on hiatus for the next couple of weeks. Part of that reason is because I will actually be in Austin, Texas. Yeah. And I will actually be attending an awesome event, which is the Brier Works event in Austin at Habana House Cigars. That's going to be March 9th. You can find more information about it on their website.
It's this coming Thursday, actually.
Just
a couple days away. Yeah,
that's right. Actually, as this podcast goes out to the people, it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you're in or around the Austin area, check it out. Not just because you get to meet the amazing people from Brier Works, some amazing pipes that are out there, but also because there will be.
Aren't they going to have some like circus join them or something?
Well, there's a
like the bearded lady or something.
I was going to say a celebrity appearance. Yes, I will be there. I will be there. Thank you, bearded lady. Wow. I think most people would point out with my current beard status, I fall more under the lady than the bearded situation going on right now. But one way or the other.
Oh, that's great.
I will be there. And so, hey, if you want to hang out, look, we've got an awesome listening community out in Austin. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you guys, Pylorns and all of them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So. You're the one that travels the world, right? I'm the one that I never get out. I just stay here, tied to.
I know. Generally speaking, I have to drag you like kicking and screaming
to go anywhere.
Scraping. I think I still have fingernails on the floor.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
The last time that we went to New Orleans. But yeah, no, man, it's tough.
That's great, man.
But you are going out.
I am going to Chicago.
That's right.
I sure am. Yeah, sure am. That's I guess here in a couple months. Just booked my hotel room. And, I'm excited. Looking forward to seeing a bunch of good friends up there. Of course, we'll talk more about that the closer it gets to time.
That's right, man. Yeah. Well, back in the hometown, of course, y'all also have a Brier Works event going on.
We do. The cool thing about this Brier Works tour, Pete Prevost, our good friend at Brier Works. If you don't know Pete or aren't familiar with his work, this is one of the most talented pipe carvers in America, and that is no overstatement. Okay, so Pete is he's just part of this wave of pipe carvers that came along, between 10 and 5 years ago that really have kind of put American pipe making on the map, American artisan pipe making on the map. And Pete, of course,
Brier,
when it comes to Brier, he of course just makes pipes. I mean, now that are going to be anywhere from $700 to $2,000. I mean, his work is just incredible. He's made quite a name for himself, and him and his buddy Todd Johnson, several guys a few years ago, got together to start Brier Works Pipes. They wanted kind of an American pipe production company, and have successfully done that. So anyway, follow Pete if his name's Pete Prevost, and he's an amazing artisan in his own right. And they also have this awesome company that they started, Brier Works, and Pete is on tour through the Southeast, going to several stops. And I say Southeast, they're also going to Oklahoma and Texas and some different places. But anyway, they'll be making their last stop here in Jackson, and that is on March 11th, this coming Saturday, from 2 to 6 p.m. And the exciting thing is we're actually gonna go all out. We're expecting a big crowd. We want to make it worth everyone's while to be here. So we at the Pipe Trunk show here, Brier Works show here in Jackson, are going to be doing 20% off all the pipes that day, which is a big deal. I mean, that's we're talking
on
like
the pipes.
Every bit of stuff that Pete brings to sell that day will be 20% off. So we're really excited about that. But anyway, come we look forward to seeing you, and we're probably going to stay open a little late that night too, which will be fun. So.
I've been constantly impressed with Brier Works and just like what they're doing for the industry, what they're doing for the American pipe manufacturing industry in particular is just really fantastic.
They've been really innovative. They have taken interesting and popular shapes that have been made, popular and well known by carvers, and they've kind of tried to translate that into a mass produced pipe. And just their finishes are real aggressive. They do very high quality stems. All their tenon work is done with Delrin, which is just the best material for that. And it's just a really well run company. We're very very thankful for them. Proud to say they're in the States and even from the South.
Hey, that's always good. we had Pete on a while back. We did a shop talk with him.
That's right.
Last time he was in town. I'm looking forward to seeing him in Austin. And I know that the local folks, or those of you who are in and around the Mississippi area, y'all come down too and get a chance to meet him and take part in that awesome sale. That's awesome, man. All right, so we also have coming up here. So we mentioned, of course, we'll be off for the next 2 weeks. We've got to make mention that for the live show audience, when we return, we will be returning at a brand new time. That's 8:30 Central Time on March 27th. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you have never tuned in for a live show, if it's always been too early for you, it's like right after work for you, hopefully this will open up the opportunity for a lot of folks. We've already gotten actually a lot of great feedback on the new time.
Yeah.
People have already been commenting in. It's interesting. You can tell the locals versus just the listeners. There's a lot of positive listener feedback of, oh, that's way better for me. And a lot of local feedback with, oh, the Squire's open 2 hours later.
Exactly. I know, right? Yeah. That's we have to mention that's kind of the reason we're doing this. The shop is actually going to be open now until 8 o'clock every night of the week. And so we are closed Sunday, but every other day of the week we've been open. Traditionally closed at 6. We've opened later now, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night until 8. And now we're going to be opening until 8 o'clock every night. And so our good friend Caleb, the intern, tobacconist in training, as it were, who's going to join us on the show here in the near future. He's going to be up here working some of those hours. I'll be working some of those hours. It's going to be more of an opportunity for folks to come enjoy their pipe and tobacco and maybe favorite beverage after work.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned it. Caleb, the intern, is returning in the next couple of episodes. So if you've got a question for Caleb, send that in. Put in the title of your email, question for Caleb, and I'll be sure to include that. I think it'll be really great. He's a young tobacconist. We're going to be picking his brain. I know a lot of y'all listen to us and you think that we're kind of the young guns. Wait till you meet Caleb.
This guy's always coming. It's like, who's that muscular guy that works there? And I'm like, yeah, there's only one.
Yeah.
Hashtag questions for Caleb. How do you get such biceps? It's like,
do you even lift, brah?
Do you even lift, brah?
But anyway, that's coming. So questions for Caleb at show@countrysquireradio.com. Hey, before we jump into this amazing topic that we've got going on, we got to give a major shout out to new club members. Ow! Yeah, we've got some new club members joining the Country Squire Radio International Pipe Club. At the Squire level, big shout out to Jimmy Somerville. And at the Pilgrim level, shout out to Caleb Kraus. You guys,
Jimmy and Caleb, thanks so much for joining, guys. Y'all are direct reasons that make this podcast happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to those of you, I got to mention this as well, just kind of a little bit of club business. I want to get this out here. Those of you, I believe everyone who is a founding member has received their digital club card. Everyone who is not a founding member probably has not yet. I promise you. It is ever nagging in the back of my mind, and I'm going to make sure that I get those out to you just as soon as I possibly can. So hopefully a blast out of new club cards is coming to you soon. Kind of a welcome packet. There's also some avatars that are in there and a lot of great digital goodies for you. So look for that in the coming, let's play it safe, weeks. Let's just be honest.
Have we had a lot of folks kind of comment on going back through the archives of old episodes and whatnot? It's
been amazing, man.
Yeah.
We've actually, a lot of folks have kind of commented about the fact that they're going back through and hearing us in the old days. For anybody that's a club member, or even if you're just a patron at the $1 level, you're able to get the full archive, the full RSS that contains all of our shows dating back to the beginning. And it is,
if you really don't have anything to do with your time, that's where you want to spend it.
It's scary listening to some of those earlier episodes. We've actually had a few of you actually commenting on the fact we'll reference older shows.
Yeah.
Like, the Focus one that we did on the Umpal, for example, or various times we'll kind of make reference to shows that we've covered in the past.
That's right.
And newer listeners will kind of wonder, how do I get those access to those shows? Even if you don't necessarily want to become a member, a club member, for $1 an episode, if you sign up to support us through the Patreon account, we give you that full RSS that contains our almost 4-year archive of episodes. We are coming up, by the way, we are coming up on episode 200 pretty soon. We're going to need to talk about that off mic because we need to make that pretty special.
Yeah, we should make that.
But anyway, you get access to that if you go to patreon.com/Country Squire Radio, or if you just go to countrysquireradio.com, click join the club, that'll bring you directly there. Even if you're not interested in joining the club, at just $1 an episode, you help make this show happen, and we greatly appreciate it. All right, that's enough of that, man. We've got a huge show tonight.
as in interesting and just huge.
It's massive. So for longtime listeners, or even to some extent, I would think medium time listeners, you know that we do a series which is Pipe Culture. Now, Pipe Culture is a series that from the beginning, I think, was something that at least I personally was really interested in.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of studying those of us who are interested in the pipe, those of us who are pipe smokers. What is it that connects us? What is it that binds us? I mean, obviously there's the pipe. That's the primary thing. But are there other threads? Are there similarities? Do we share things in our history? Obviously people come to the pipe, and that's one of the beautiful things about it is there is a very diverse love of pipes, pipe smoking, the culture that surrounds it. Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot of commonalities. So dating back to the first ever Pipe Culture episode that we did almost like a sociological study, polling those that listened at the time about what is it? What do you consider part of pipe culture? And we kind of defined out these various spheres of what that looks like, things that you enjoy beyond just the pipe.
That's right.
While you're enjoying the pipe.
And I think the fun part of this is just how incredible the feedback is each and every time we do this. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, but Beau and I didn't really know what kind of ant's nest we were kicking. When we got into this, we were thinking, people, there's these common threads that kind of go through this, and there are people that are like this that smoke pipes and like this, and And there's some folks that just have this kind of visceral reaction to this and want to push back on some of these things that we put out there. And I love that. I think it's really interesting just to see the the different perspectives on pipedom. I mean, who is in our community and culture, and Beau and I came to the pipe for different reasons, and so we kind of view it through those lenses, and I think everyone brings their pipe kind of vision into their mind. What is pipe smoking about? And so exploring this is always a lot of fun, and we get a kick out of the people that have strong reactions to it and love that, and really appreciate that.
Well, and so one of the great things is you come to the show, and much like me, you're here to kind of sit at the foot of John David and learn.
That is ridiculous.
Learn about the tobaccos, learn about the pipes, and kind of get a better understanding. Pipe culture is a way for us to almost study collectively, for you guys to share your stories and your perspectives, your opinions. It's our chance to turn the mics over to you guys and really share your thoughts. This week we are doing we're starting a new kind of pipe culture mini series, essentially, looking at pipe smoking archetypes. It's pretty fun. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
I also have to give credit where credit is due. And this concept of looking at the archetypes of pipe smokers, or pipe smoking archetypes, actually came from listener H. Mitchell, who suggested it. I put it kind of a poll out to folks saying, like, what would you like to see aside from kind of the traditional deep dives into various tobaccos and pipes? What would you like to see? And pipe smoking archetypes is something that he suggested. And so, Mitchell, you touched a nerve, man. There's a lot of folks who have a lot of opinions about this.
It's true. It's really true. And just to kind of tee this up maybe for us a little bit, I had to think about kind of getting ready for this episode. What exactly is an archetype? Okay, we throw that around. You and I read a lot, and we talk a lot about narratives and meta narratives, and archetypes, and I don't know, just things that a lot of times we think we know what it means, but maybe it's a little more nebulous. And an archetype is a very typical example of a certain person or thing. An original that has been imitated, a recurrent symbol or motif in literature, art, or mythology. And so just some ideas of kind of what we're talking about there. You've got a, kind of these categories of, when you think of the pipe smoker, this is what you think of. And we've got these archetypes, these kind of templates of people that we put some of these different folks into. So, and
that's really good that you kind of define that too, because whenever we do anything that's kind of a little bit more high concept or kind of studying pipe smokers, inevitably this always happens. There's always a little bit of pushback, and we welcome.
And I love it. Yeah,
no, we absolutely welcome.
I love it.
And we respect it. I mean, one of the things that that was kind of expressed was this concern that we would fall into the pit of stereotyping rather than archetyping. And actually, we got some great some, I guess, concerns expressed through Reddit. This comes by way of Wayward Midland. What did Wayward say?
Yeah, Wayward said, I suppose this goes for a lot of folks, but I quite often resent being pigeonholed into a particular archetype, as it implies a certain level of inauthenticity or false fronts. Regardless of how much I may attempt to be active, interested, and engaged, it's unfortunate that general cultural stereotypes restrict good conversation and mutual understanding. I'm curious to hear the show you guys put together. Man, great.
Fair.
Yeah, very fair.
Absolutely fair. And this was, a few other folks kind of expressed similar concerns as well. In some polite and some not so polite word terminology. But I thought that Wayward really did sum it up pretty well. And that is an absolutely fair critique. And that is not our goal. In fact, Phil Morgan, of course, of Missouri Meerschaum Pipes, actually stated something in terms of his feedback, as he was also offering a bunch of various types of archetypes.
Yeah.
And I think this is really profound.
Phil goes on to say, an archetype does not necessarily have to have a descriptive label attached to it to in fact be an archetype. So think about the archetype pipe smoker could simply be a common man with a calm and reflective demeanor, sitting on the front porch or by a fireplace, contemplating the simple joy of a long, slow smoke while watching nature or watching the play of the fire. And so Phil's kind of taking it almost to a more broad level. He's like, well, we don't have to, have necessarily this kind of type A or type B or type C person. The archetype might just be the person that enjoys relaxing after a long day, or relaxing while they enjoy this bowl of burning concoction that they've meticulously selected, and all this other stuff.
Right.
So,
well,
and I think that's fair.
I like that as kind of almost like a focal point going into this as well. And hopefully to kind of qualm some of the fears that are out there. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter who it is at the other end of the pipe, what's there at the bowl is kind of what connects us all, right? Like we're all kind of sharing in that experience. And so, the diversity that kind of surrounds that as we study that, that unifying factor is something that we definitely don't want to get away from. So that is absolutely kind of at the focal point. Now, the way that we do pipe culture type of episodes is we generally leave things very broad.
That's right.
I try very hard not to define what I want you to put out. And I just kind of say like, what does,
let's just see what happens.
Let's see what happens. And we got some great feedback. We actually, a lot of people, and we'll see this as we kind of go throughout, a lot of people immediately would go to examples of archetypes and kind of mention famous people. For example, Corey Gripe specifically mentioned Mark Twain or Douglas MacArthur, which he actually mentions both of those as kind of the focal reason why he loves corncob pipes.
Corn cobs in particular.
Yeah, the poster children of corncob pipes right there. And then also, movie characters as well. We had listener Howard who wrote in saying specifically Bing movies.
Yeah, Bing Crosby.
Oh, big time. Mm-hmm. Fred Astaire. He also mentions Cary Grant. Oh, man, that's not one that I actually recognize right there. Is that Melvin?
Melvin Douglas?
Melvin Douglas. Are you familiar with Melvin Douglas?
I'm not, no. But, I'm a movie illiterate. So
this very true. Very, very true. But he mentions kind of a number of kind of movie characters, and of course actors and actresses that we kind of associate.
Yeah, particularly from that golden era. Yeah, you see, of course, they were a lot more open to our hobby back then.
Do we really consider that the golden era of movies?
I do.
Do you? All right, fair enough. That may be a whole nother discussion at some point.
It probably will be.
Yeah, but no. But that's the great thing. So a lot of people immediately jumped to individuals, and that's great. And like I said, throughout this, I think we're going to see kind of a smattering of individuals referenced when thinking about archetypes, because of the vastness of the opinions that we got and the many emails, comments, posts that people sent in. I took it upon myself, to the best of my ability, to kind of pull these into what are buckets, cylinders, kind of a focal point for these various archetypes.
Yeah,
there's a lot in crossover, and we'll talk about that.
In some point, we're always we're kind of forced to do this to some degree, right?
Exactly,
and it's that tension again of talking about the common threads, but then also saying, hey, it's just a bunch of people that enjoy to smoke a pipe. So, but we are going to try to take these different buckets, categories, as you said, and kind of talk about each one in particular. And there were you find them kind of gravitating around these center lines, these data points, kind of all line up. It's fascinating.
And I mean, this is not exhaustive. This is specifically from the listeners that wrote in. And so if you have something that you kind of think of after the fact, feel free to turn that in. But these are kind of the focal points, the archetypes that I kind of collectively merged into their own categories.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
You ready for this?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I'm a little nervous about actually putting this down here. I literally today I had a whiteboard up and I was writing this out in my office.
Well, because there's just so much, and a lot of times, as we'll see very shortly, folks have a certain person in mind, and that person may or may belong to a category that they understand, or but that might mean something a little different to us. So
That's right.
Anyway, let's dive in.
All right. So here we go. So here they are, running down the list. The father/grandfather.
Yep.
The professor, the philosopher, the soldier, the sailor, the aristocrat, the farmer, and
maybe.
Now, I know a lot of you hear me say maybe before the wizard.
Right.
And are kind of freaking out, like, how can you say business maybe? Just hang on.
That's right.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Now, that's me kind of collectively thinking, because there's a lot of different things, like the thinker, the tinkerer, the scientist. Like, there's a lot of different like words that were used, but I kind of like folded those into kind of like one primary category as a way to kind of organize this.
Well, and I think those are fair bellwethers or buoys that we can kind of attach ourselves to with all these things. Again, a lot of folks, they had a person in mind, but the person, it may or may not have explicitly been, let's say, the father or the professor, but they're kind of, I don't know, that it kind of goes in that category. So we're grasping at something to kind of unify a lot of these people. Yeah.
So again, I'll run that list one more time: the father/grandfather, the professor, the philosopher, the soldier, the sailor, the aristocrat, the farmer, and maybe the wizard.
And Portland Paul, of course, tweets in caveat much. I mean, we're yeah, exactly.
Right. One thing I think is very interesting as we were kind of collecting these in, as these were rolling in, nobody mentioned one that I kind of find is like a modern archetype, which is the hipster.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we've done
and no one mentioned that at all, right?
Nobody mentioned that at all. Now, well, I say that. I mean, there was some like kind of like nebulous of like, well, I don't know that I fit into an archetype.
Kind of on the periphery, yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of like an art musician type of person. I kind of feel like, I guess that would kind of be like a hipster archetype.
Yeah.
If that's an archetype, which it maybe it is, maybe it's not. Just kind of throwing that out there.
Let's dive in.
All right. So because of all the great feedback that we got tonight for this particular episode, I think what we're going to do is we're going to focus specifically on the father/grandfather.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you on the live show, what this means is that we are going to start with that, and then we're also going to go on to the professor and the philosopher as well. Again, long episode, 2 episodes squashed into one. Live show fun. Sausage is made. Enjoy. So the father/grandfather, I think back before even reading some of this, I think back to when we started out with the pipe culture series, and there was a question of origins. Why do we smoke a pipe?
Yes.
And one of the probably most commented on stories or most, common threads in that area, in the origins area, was because of kind of this legacy fact, this fact that you were smoking a pipe because your father or your grandfather smoked a pipe. You discovered his pipes, or you just remember sitting at granddad's feet and he was smoking a pipe, that sort of thing. There's a very much kind of like this connection there.
It is. It's a romantic connection. It's something where you feel personally involved in it, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be a father or grandfather. It can be this kind of relative or close person that generally is older, someone that maybe had an influence on you or an effect on you, and they just happen to smoke a pipe, and maybe someone walking down the street who smoked a pipe reminded you of them, or they had kind of this sense of you walked into a shop and you smelled the tobacco in there and immediately brought you back to fishing with granddad or something like that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of connectedness there that happens with people we love. Something as rich and sensory as a pipe, and so it draws you kind of into that. And we see a lot of folks that start smoking a pipe because of that.
I want to make mention to kind of diving into this one, and I think this is true of a lot of these characters or archetypes rather, is that Tom Stillwaits on Reddit mentioned that there is this kind of notion of the authority figure, that there's almost like if you've got a pipe, if you're smoking a pipe, you think of that kind of that imagery. Someone who's smoking a pipe in these archetypes have kind of a sense of authority. And so I do think that kind of plays into a lot of these archetypes, but especially like the father, grandfather type role.
I mean, you and I definitely have authority because we smoke pipes.
Well, you're
I agree. Everyone that smokes a pipe has some type of authority.
Yeah. Or
we're important. Pipe smokers in general are important.
No, this is true.
We're important people.
I didn't know if you were saying we as in the collective we, or you and me, because I was like,
I don't know.
I don't know how important I am. But
no, not at all.
But no, that authority does play into that. Now I love this. Listener Jeff Morley wrote in. He also sent in a picture along with this. But read what he wrote.
Yeah. Jeff, he says, my personal archetype or inspiration is my dad and his compatriots. He was one of America's quote greatest generation. He enlisted in the Army on December 8th, 1941, like so many others, and served our country in Europe. December 8th, of course, right after Pearl Harbor there. Upon his return, he took up the pipe, joining countless millions of American men. My own pipe journey started in direct homage to him and his generation of pipe smokers, to whom we all owe a great debt of gratitude. Rest in peace, Pops.
Man. That's a beautiful dedication there.
Yeah.
And he specifically, like I mentioned, he sent in a picture of his dad, and just a really, really, I mean, like is very touching. sharing that and thinking too about again that legacy.
Well, and there is something again to be said about the authority figure, right? It's someone that kind of, the fatherly, grandfatherly person that teaches you how to. For me, it was my grandfather that it was a sailor. He smoked a pipe when he was a sailor, and he knew every knot there was to tie, and taught me how to tie knots at a very young age and things like that. Or someone's dad who maybe taught them how to ride a horse while they were smoking a pipe, or it taught them how to put bait on a fishing line or something. I don't know. I mean, just something like that. It's kind of an interesting thing.
It like seasoned the experience when you think back to those kind of classic memories. For those of us who had fathers, grandfathers that smoked pipe, that almost like punctuated that memory or whatever it may be. And so that's kind of tied into that. You think about also the kind of the dad in the easy chair, right? At the end of the day, smoking his pipe or reading the paper, or
hey, come here, son, sit on my knee and tell me how your day was, kind of thing. Yeah.
But I mean, like that's a classic and I think iconic image too.
Sure. Almost a Norman Rockwell kind of thing, Yeah. Classic
definitely.
Americana, you kind of feel like dad's had a hard day at work. He's relaxing with his pipe. That's a good time to come talk to him while he's kind of easing his nerves there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there is kind of the what was it, iconic kind of 40s 50s marketing and such, where you'd see dad and this kind of this
he's got his cardigan on,
Yeah, this middle class white guy with his he's biting, he's always clenching. Like that's the thing.
He's clenching. He's got a big old smile.
He always looks. He's the same character in every single ad. Like they all look exactly the same, and he's clenching he's clenching that pipe like nobody's business.
Right. It's always a straight pipe. So and sometimes he's got on a fedora.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's supposed to be the dad, right? I mean, that there is kind of an iconic thing.
I want to be that when I grow up, by the way.
For a lot of, you're gonna have to shave because he's always clean shaven.
He's always clean shaven.
But I mean, for a lot of us, I mean, I think that there's, maybe your dad doesn't fit that mold. And I think probably that's true of most of us, but for the most part, I mean, for those of us who do have kind of that father figure as part of their legacy, that makes a lot of sense. Kevin Dooley also wrote in saying, for me growing up, it was the loving, quirky, and wise grandfather. And then he also says, and also Commissioner Gordon, which to some extent is that as well.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So you do think of that, that kind of elderly figure. I'm reminded too of when we talked, and this dates a while back, but when we did kind of a focus on the Lord of the Rings pipes and kind of Tolkien and his use of pipes in his work, we talked to the good folks over at theonering.net, and specifically our guest, she talked about the fact that she did not smoke a pipe, but it was always something very special in growing up, is because her grandfather smoked a pipe.
Yeah.
And just she remembered very specifically like this long church warden that he would smoke, and that the impact of kind of the recognition of that imagery, and then followed that through to Gandalf and kind of in the Lord of the Rings and everything else, and kind of tying this high fantasy and this almost romantic nature of the wise, learned character.
I like that.
Tied to the grandfather, like your actual grandfather.
My wise, learned character.
Exactly.
That was wise and learned for me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that authority and I think wisdom too that kind of ties into that, especially as you go up a generation. You know what I mean?
Kind of a random thought here, or an aside that I don't know, just like to explore for a short second. Like, in our generation, we always think about, again, this archetype, pipe smoker, the old man, as it were, the old man sitting in his rocking chair, that pipes are, we have a lot of folks that come in and they're like, man, a pipe shop. I mean, are these all just a bunch of 80-year-old men coming in here? But a thought that I just had, never really thought about, back in let's say the 1960s or the 1970s, and maybe if you're listening, or watching live, and you lived back then, was that still common? Was it still in the 60s and 70s? Was the archetype of the old man still there? Because a lot of times, in the 60s and 70s, there were a lot more probably 20-year-olds that smoked a pipe back then. Nowadays it's kind of it is kind of thought of as a older generation thing. But what about in the 30s and 40s? Like, did they think of pipe smokers as being associated with old people? I mean, I would think probably not, right? I mean, they would think, well, pipe smoking, that's cool.
That's
what you do. Yeah, I mean, it's just the common man. That's what you do, and not necessarily an old thing. I wonder when that kind of happened, like the transition from pipes as just being kind of the sophisticated thing to do, to pipes being what the old man kind of did. I don't know. That's just interesting. I've never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
No, I'm definitely tracking.
Yeah, kind of. If you're in the '60s, pipe smoking wasn't just for the old guy. It was something that everyone did. But I maybe as time went on and pipe smoking became a little more niche, and the cigars came along, maybe just folks started associating pipes more with older people from a past generation. I don't know. Folks are always, though, and I can attest to this on a daily basis. They're always surprised at how many young people smoke pipes nowadays. So and that's surprising. Them being surprised by the amount of young people involved in pipe culture. I think it says something about what folks think about this particular archetype.
That's good. So that's the father-grandfather archetype. It's great. We're actually throughout on a live show that the tweets are coming in, and we're already getting shouts out of like, well, what about the minister? What about the dentist? What about the the hillbilly? What about the hick? And I think what you'll see is that as we kind of reopen this topic going forward, a lot of those will kind of fall into, maybe not perfectly, but kind of fall into other categories.
Yeah, one of these kind of buoys that we've picked out as far as a lot of these types are congregating around.
And I'm looking forward to kind of some of the debate that'll naturally come out of this as well, because this was my attempt to kind of pull everybody's thoughts into kind of one focus, and as time goes on, it may shift. But for example, like the oh man, I hesitate to even say this, but so somebody, Portland Paul mentioned that don't forget about the hillbilly and the hick. That may
we hadn't forgot about us. We're right here.
Well, I was going to say, to some extent, I used the farmer as an archetype to kind of cover a broad sense of that, right? And so, even when we get there, when we kind of talk about the farmer and the archetype, or the farmer and the aristocrat in a singular episode, there's kind of a sense in which that's intentionally very different. To some extent, it's kind of the rich and the poor, right? I mean, not that all farmers are poor. I'm certainly not trying to say that, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I can't wait for the feedback on that.
Oh man,
it's gonna be a lot of
fun. Send your hate mail to John David at no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, there you go. All right, so today we're talking about more than just the father.
That's right, grandfather,
and father. Let me see. Let me pull back up my notes. Sorry about that. Let me get that back up and rolling.
Paul, you talk about the dentist, being a pipe smoker. It's always funny when people find out that dentists are pipe smokers. We've got a few here at the Country Squire.
I know, right?
Yeah, and it's actually a thing. Like there are lots of dentists that smoke pipes, and I just love that. And y'all have probably heard me mention on the show before. And this might tie in a little bit with to the archetypes we're about to talk about, but our local children's hospital is also named after one of our best customers. And it's like it's a children's hospital, and if you go in to the foyer of it, it's you'll see his portrait, and Dr. Batson is holding his pipe that he bought from the Country Squire. I don't know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Hang on, I'm trying to.
As Beau refills his nerve pill.
Two more due tonight. That is what's getting us through the
What made you choose Irish whiskey?
Cheap.
Oh, okay. Is that what does that cost? About $20 a fifth?
$20, yeah.
$20 a fifth?
A little bit, $20.
Yeah,
I said that to somebody. They're like, $20, that's not cheap.
That's not cheap. Well, what? I mean, it's not like you're drinking.
I mean, it's like, have you seen what the price of some whiskey is? I mean, I'm just saying on the scale.
Maybe I think cheap is that fantastic whiskey we reviewed that time, Old Charter.
Twice.
Did we do it twice? We did it twice.
Yeah, you forgot that we did it the first time.
Well, it's aged all of 8 seasons. So, I mean, what could be bad about it?
Oh man! All right, so we've talked about the father, the grandfather. We're going to talk about now the archetypes of the professor and the philosopher. Now, these are interesting because as I was kind of combing through, we got, tons of feedback on these two in particular. At first glance, they seem very similar. You know what I mean? Like the professor and the philosopher, and I even wrestled with the idea of perhaps
splitting them up at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe they are the same, but what I found is that I found it difficult to combine them because I didn't know what to call them. At the end of the day, the professor exists to teach you something. The philosopher exists, I feel like, to learn something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
like there's
I could get on board with that.
there's a sharing nature to both of these. In many respects, they're two sides to the exact same coin, and perhaps both exist in the same entity or archetype. But I'm not quite sure what you would even call that archetype. The professor has to be a philosopher. The philosopher has to be a professor. Someone who is going to dedicate their life to learning, inadvertently, is also going to, whether they like it or not, teach other people what they have learned.
Yeah.
And somebody who is
Yeah.
going to teach other people must learn and be contemplative and be kind of, thinking through these things. Anyway, so all that to say, this is an archetype that I find to be very interestingly and oddly complex.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
the teaching, thinking, conveying intellectualism archetype.
So Tom Still Waits from Reddit wrote in. He said, thinking through who this professor might be: wise, well-read intellectuals, a professor, a scientist, an author, a doctor, if you will. Thinking through, of course, the dentist, that sort of thing as well, kind of all falls under the idea of the professor.
Yeah. That intellectual.
Exactly. I like scientists too, because when I think of scientist, I don't necessarily think of philosopher, and that's where I think there is a line here to be drawn.
Yeah, so scientist, you're maybe thinking of someone that's doing some kind of empirical work or something, studying something more, I don't know, tangible. Whereas, philosopher, maybe taking the effects of, what you've learned from a scientist and kind of saying about what that means on a, broader life level. I don't know. Something might be there.
What was that Family Guy where Peter Griffin, is like great grandfather was a philosopher? Is like, what? Go get a job. Why?
Why would I do that?
But we've got listener Joshua Lay wrote in and talking specifically. Let's start off with this concept of the professor. What did Joshua Lay say?
Yeah, Joshua said, a pipe seems almost as integral to the idea of a professor as the tweed jacket. Once upon a time, young history students would go into a professor's office, and both of them would pull out their pipes, fill their bowls from the jar or tin that the professor had on his desk, and talk about papers or projects. Tolkien, Lewis, Karl Barth, Rudolf Bultmann, Bertrand Russell, Einstein, and Albert Mohler all fit into that category of pipe smoking professor. Even here locally, there's a local poet, and he knows it. At Belhaven University.
I know you did not just do that.
You catch that? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Our friend Randy, who is the chair of the creative writing department here at Belhaven University.
Oh wow.
Local writer, professor, and pipe smoker, man, and he's very open about that. Of course, I used to be a student at Reformed Theological Seminary here in West Jackson.
Oh, there's pipe smokers there.
And man, I love it because we're talking to, evangelical Christian seminary here. You go on the walls of the of one of the buildings out there. They've got old pictures of the classrooms, professors teaching in the middle of the classroom. And I mean, here you've got a professor, teaching in a seminary class, and he's smoking his pipe.
Of course he is.
Yeah, of course he is. What else would you be doing, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, so great perspective there, Joshua. We also had Kurt Goodwine, who said, when I think of the pipe smoker, images of intellectuals and scholars come to mind.
Yeah, he goes on to say, most of us are aware of the power of the pipe when we are working towards finding a solution to a problem. You kind of think of the Sherlock Holmes 3-pipe problem or something.
Yeah.
It seems to help to clear the mind of those things which rob attention away from our point of focus. I believe that many of the greatest minds of all time found success because they were intelligent, yes, but also because they were able to dedicate much of their mental efforts towards the problem or area of study at hand. Pipe smoking or smoking a pipe helps us to facilitate this, which is why figures like Albert Einstein and Bertrand Russell could almost always be found sporting a pipe. Even think of folks like Frank Lloyd Wright designing some of the most famous structures of the 20th century. Here. Coming up with whole new schools of thought about architecture, and he's kind of got this totem that he's working with every day.
Right.
You see Einstein the same way. Kind of using it as that. Something to grab onto while you're in deep thought. I don't know. I think there's something there.
You're right. I mean, and it is interesting because, of course, Russell and Einstein, they kind of fit several different molds, but it is specific, like the idea of working towards a solution. You even made mention of Sherlock Holmes and the detective. I considered including the detective as its own archetype, and I think there's some bleed over here, right? I mean, I do think that to some extent this is where the detective would fit in under the professor. Sherlock Holmes, he studied the case. He would sit there. He would the 3-pipe problem.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like we need to use that more often. Like, man, that's a 3-pipe problem.
That needs to come back into the lexicon.
That's something where if stuff's really hit the fan and you've got to devote your all your brain power to this. Well, that's a 3-pipe problem.
That's a 3-pipe problem. Yeah. All right, hashtag 3-pipe problem. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, that's awesome. That.
I say let's bring it back. The people at I hear of Sherlock everywhere. Like,
they've never let it go.
We never let it go.
Right.
Like, you guys are late to the game there. We also
the modern Sherlock, it's like the 3-patch problem, or the 3
well,
the 3 e-cigarette problem or something.
Yeah. The current Sherlock Holmes, Benedict Cumberbatch, who did a fantastic job in Doctor Strange. I'm still a little bitter that they never. I mean, they gave him a pipe in the special episode that they did.
Yeah, the one that kind of looked back like it felt more Victorian.
It was a Victorian approach, and the concept was it was like the character thinking through a case that existed in that era, and he was trying to use that as a basis to solve the case. They tied it, and it was fine. But it still bothers me that the notion of, well, if we're going to tell modern Sherlock Holmes he can't smoke a pipe, man, that.
You have a 3 Nicorette gum problem, Beau, you just let me know.
I mean, I'm telling you, right? It's messed up. But anyway, the professor. All right, so the philosopher. These two very similar to one another.
Yeah.
And I think actually as we kind of dive in a little bit deeper here, we'll actually see even more similarities. John Simpson, he writes in. Now, John Simpson, he used a different term for philosopher. He referred to this as the thinker. But how did he describe that?
Yeah, I typically think of the great philosophers, heads of state, mathematicians, and even writers in this category. You've got Bertrand Russell, Einstein, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and the list goes on. As we all know, the art of pipe smoking goes hand in hand with slowing down, taking your time, and really concentrating on what you're doing. It goes perfect with deep contemplation. Something of interest is the way that Peterson has expounded on this archetype with their motto, "The thinking man smokes a Peterson pipe." Interesting, thought there. The thinking man smokes a Peterson pipe. Even on the tin of, if you've ever bought a tin of Orlick golden sliced tobacco, I love this. You open the tin. There's the kind of a cardboard lid that covers over the tobacco. It's got a picture of a British judge wearing his wig, and and it says "smoked by all shrewd judges."
Oh,
isn't that great?
That's so good.
It's so great. I love it. I think that's part of the reason I like Orlick so much. But there's something about that thinker. Smoking it, he says, as we, the smoking the pipe goes hand in hand with slowing down, taking your time, really concentrating on what you're doing. For some reason, I've never really made this connection before, but are you familiar? You're familiar, obviously, with the Catholic rosary, right? I mean, you've got.
Oh yeah.
I mean, or at least that it's there. I'm not Catholic. You're not either. We don't know probably all the ins and outs of it, but you've got this rosary that's kind of a I think the idea is you kind of grasp the beads while you're kind of centering yourself, and each one you are saying a repetitive prayer that kind of gets you into this place, and it's almost this thing you hold on to that focuses you in a to be present. It's like, okay, you're going to be present here with the Lord. And so, and I don't know, the pipe is it's kind of similar to that. I don't want to, connect it with the rosary in a way that offends our Catholic brothers and sisters, but there's something interesting there. It's like, you're in this distracted world. You're trying to focus, and you're physically grabbing something, a real object that, it helps you stay focused and grounded on what you're trying to do at hand.
Yeah.
And so what is it about that? It's almost like maybe the pipe has a similar effect. I don't know. I'd love to hear some thoughts on maybe from some of our Catholic friends if they have any thoughts on that.
I know. I remember before we've actually kind of talked about the pipe as almost like this totem. It's kind of that focal point as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
That playing into it. Yeah, I hear you. You know, even earlier today, I was, you know, I suffer from a rare disease called attention deficit disorder.
It's very rare.
Very rare.
It's very rare,
It's
and
very rare.
you're very under medicated.
Under medicated. No. But all kidding aside, though, you know, one of the things that you know happens a lot is that I think very quickly. You know, I don't necessarily get distracted so much as I just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, you're one of those point, shoot, aim people.
Yeah, you've described. I remember you described me as that once, and it offended me. And then I thought back, I was like, yeah, it's about right.
No, that's about right.
Yeah. but you know, it's one of those things where you know it's important to kind of stay in the moment, and I think the pipe can be a huge process to that. You know, you think about some of the great minds of the philosophers of history and even of the day, and you know, part of what allows them to take the time to focus is having something as that focal point. And the pipe is that for a lot of folks, a lot of people that are mentioned specifically here by you guys.
I like that.
We also have Jacob Hulls, who wrote in. He says, I think the philosopher ought be considered a pipe smoking archetype. There's so many prolific pipe smoking philosophers. Of course, he mentions folks who have already been mentioned: Bertrand Russell, Jean-Paul Sartre, Immanuel
Kant,
and I think even the Reformed philosopher Alvin
Plantinga. I have no idea.
I'm glad that you're the one butchering these.
No, yeah. I mean, we've got to spread the humiliation a little bit.
That's right. Although he may have just smoked cigars. That does seem to be the fact. There are a lot of Reformed theologians out there that did tend to err towards the cigars.
Yeah.
But really good. Also, you know, Charles Hibbs mentions, he said, philosophers and thinkers. He thinks of
Carl Jung, Einstein.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Writers as well, Tolkien and Lewis. And actually, Caleb Krauss kind of echoes this as well.
Yeah, Caleb says, when you mention archetypes and pipe smokers, you have to mention Carl Jung. Jung spelled Jung, of course. Carl Jung, the great, you know, psychoanalyst of the 20th century. He says the warm and thoughtful psychology type person has always been an influential archetype of pipe smoking to me. You know, that's interesting. I forget about that one, and it's funny because we've got you know, such an amazing amount of counselors that shop at the Country Squire.
Oh yeah.
You know, I used to say, and I guess I've kind of forgotten about that, and it really is true still to some extent, but a very large portion of our you know, of our clientele at the Squire are either counselors, pastors, or professors. And so in this counselor role, someone that, again, we even go back to that kind of idea of the authority, you know, someone that can kind of, you know, maybe provide wisdom, impart some type of wisdom. You know, the counselor role, someone that's very thoughtful, someone that's good at listening, empathizing, you know, it kind of hearing all of the things that are happening in your world and helping you make sense of it, as kind of this, you know, guru or something. I don't know. There's something about that, I think, that lends itself to the pipe quite well. We've got one of our local customers, my really good friend, Mike, is a Jungian psychologist here in Jackson, and really, you know, admires Jung for a lot of reasons, but one of those is that he was such a prolific pipe smoker, and of course not invented, but you know, kind of gave language to and structure to a lot of the modern psychology, you know, that we use today. Interesting.
You know, thinking about these two roles, you know, the fact that there is so much that connects the two. I think when thinking about the philosopher and the professor to some extent, but you know, I think that you do get the theologian that kind of falls under that. You mentioned the counselor as well, that definitely falls into that. You know, it's a focal point for a wide net. And I think as a lot of you guys, you know, the professor, for example, the doctor comes up a lot. And I think the doctor kind of falls under that as well. We've also got Varge, who actually wrote in. He says, professors share knowledge while philosophers share wisdom. I thought that was a really good,
interesting.
Yeah. Differentiator.
Yeah. That's interesting. Our friend Chase Abels, he says, always found a similarity in the focus and contemplation of wearing my tallit. He says that's his prayer shawl.
Oh yeah.
And then smoking a pipe. So it's there again. You've kind of, I'm not familiar with the tallit, but it sounds like it's you know, this is a physical thing
process,
that you're using during this more intellectual process. So it's kind of almost combining kind of the physical with the mental. It's connecting two sides of the brain. I don't know. I'm kind of always a sucker for that. Being present, the mindfulness movement. Kind of staying in the moment. Yeah.
That's good.
Interesting.
We also had Joe Smokes Pipes who wrote in. He said the philosopher and the teacher are the quote unquote intellectual archetypes.
Yeah.
And I think that's true as well. Russ Hicks saying, I'm surprised that the detective was not on the list. Although I think, like I said, I think the detective does kind of fall under the professor, probably more so than the philosopher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah. I considered at one point even including or having kind of the hunter. Although I think the hunter kind of falls in the farmer. We'll go there when we eventually get there.
When we talk about those poor farmers and all the
oh man, that's gonna come back and bite me, isn't it?
Yeah, I do love that Russ whose last name is Hicks is very welcoming of this.
Yeah, so, that's good. That is positive.
No, that's great.
That is definitely positive. I think we'd be remiss before we exit kind of the topic of the philosopher and the professor without mentioning that, in my opinion. And I'm very curious to see what feedback we get here. I feel like the wizard falls under one, if not both of those archetypes.
Sure.
Because if you think about what the wizard is in terms of like,
well, the science, studying, practical things or, empirical evidence about things, but then also, taking it and going in a more, a direction that's more philosophical. I don't know. I think I could see that. That's Gandalf, right?
That's true. And I mean, I also think of like Joseph Campbell, right? Like Joseph Campbell, who did an extensive study on kind of stories and his book, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And he looks at mythology, looks at common authorities, commonalities.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. Joseph Campbell's a brilliant, brilliant man. But you think of kind of like what the teacher is, what the wizard. Like a lot of times when he kind of defines kind of this almost somewhat paternal guiding role in lore and in stories, the wizard often kind of falls into that. So again, the professor, the philosopher, the guiding factor there. I'm more inclined to include the wizard there, but I'm also very much open to pushback in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm opening it up. What do you guys think? In terms of where does the wizard fall into this? Is the wizard a philosopher / professor, or is the wizard his own thing? And if so, make your case, because I'm really looking forward to that. If we get enough in, then we'll do a deep dive into the wizard. And
I think some of my professors in college were wizards.
Is that right?
Yeah, they magically made my grades become very low.
Oh,
in classes that they shouldn't have been.
I'm very grateful to say
it was all magic.
I'm very grateful to say that my experience was the opposite. I had I had professors.
Did they pull some magic to make them maybe higher than they should have been?
I should not be a high school graduate, let alone a college graduate. So
I made a D in a class called Plants and Humans.
Plants and people, really?
We literally study plants and humans.
I took that class.
Like, they would only offer something like that at Mississippi State.
No.
Like,
they had it at Mississippi College.
Did they really? Plants and humans? Like,
well, it's called plants. It's called Plants and People, and it was very much a home ec type of situation. Look, I got a Game Boy. I played Pokemon Ruby the entire class. Final exam.
That's fantastic.
Was to make hummus.
Oh, wow.
That was the final exam.
Wow. You could either do that or sew a pillow sham.
No. Like, I mean, it was, you had to, there had to be plants or people involved, but one way or the other.
It's funny, actually, talking of Mississippi College and again, talking about the archetypes we've discussed all episode. One of our longest time customers is a professor at Mississippi College.
Is that right?
It's Dr. Potts. I don't know if you ever had Dr. Potts.
Really?
But, Dr. Potts is a avid Black Arrow smoker.
Interesting.
He likes cheap cigars and Black Cavendish. That's what he smokes. And man, when he comes in, he is. I've gotten to the point where I quit asking him how he is because he's always complaining. And I hope he's listening to this. He's always complaining, and the subject is either students that don't give a damn anymore, or the administration at college that makes him go to the edge of campus to smoke his pipe. And I love interacting with Dr. Potts because I feel like it gets all my frustration out. It's great.
Mike, edit that. Put a bleep, though, so that people don't know. No, put a bleep so it sounds a lot worse than it was. Brilliant. All right, so there you go. The second part of what was kind of our introductory two-part episode into this. Next week we've got a kind of a special guest of Caleb coming in. We're going to be talking about kind of pipe tobacco from a young tobacconist perspective, and so
that's exciting.
And go through a lot of different topics. But eventually we will return to reopen the subject of pipe culture, specifically through pipe smoking archetypes. And you'll know when it comes, because we'll be asking for more of your feedback as we go into that. Well, I think it is apropos, if we are going to talk about pipe smoking archetypes, given how much the subject matter of Mark Twain came up this episode.
That's right.
I think it's only fair that this particular episode should be sponsored by the most amazing corncob pipe manufacturer in the world,
and certainly the most iconic.
Most iconic.
Of course, we're talking about Missouri Meerschaum.
Missouri Meerschaum.
That's right.
Good quality pipes.
The folks at Missouri Meerschaum, including Phil and the entire team they've got up there. They just do such a great job handpicking the corn that comes to make these pipes. Making sure it's the highest quality. They've got their own breeds. They're always pushing the envelope with new shapes and designs. Phil, matter of fact, even earlier this week, we were kind of bouncing back some messages back and forth about, hey, what do you think about this shape?
Yeah.
Or, maybe we could do this. He's always pushing the envelope with this, and I love it.
I'm sorry, I still geek out about that. I know he's listening, but I still geek out about
it. It's great. It's such good people, and again, the folks at Missouri Meerschaum, if you ever are fortunate enough to go to a pipe show or any kind of event where a lot of pipe smokers are gathered, you'll be very blessed if you bump into a Missouri Meerschaum table, because he's definitely going to be there, and he's going to be one of those people that will throw his arms around you. But anyway, Missouri Meerschaum pipes, they're the best pipes, particularly for the value and great smoking pipes, and they'll serve you well.
I need to geek out for just a second.
Yeah,
can I geek out for a second?
No, that's okay.
I've got John Wesley Ship on speed dial. That you don't know who that is.
I have no idea.
He was Dawson's dad on Dawson's Creek.
Yeah,
no, John Wesley Ship, the current, he's Jay Garrick the Flash on the CW series The Flash, and like I've got the man on speed dial. I don't even care. I geek out about the fact that we got freaking Phil Morgan.
Phil Morgan, man,
get like checking in with you to be like, hey, what do you think about this pipe shape? That's awesome to me.
He's great, man.
That's awesome to me.
Those are good people.
Oh my gosh.
The folks in the pipe community in general, not just Missouri Meerschaum,
best people on earth.
Yeah, I think people. If you've listened to the show long enough and you've interacted with us, or certainly if you walk in the Country Squire, I hope you know the reason I stay in this industry is I love pipes. I love tobacco. They minister to my spirit and my soul and all that. But it's the people. It's the people in this kind of industry. And in this community that are so special, and I think Phil and a lot of our listeners, y'all really embody that.
Yeah, yep. Rock stars, absolutely. So hey, support the good folks at Missouri Meerschaum. Pick up a Missouri Meerschaum pipe. Spoke it this week. Take a selfie, retweet that, or tweet that out to us so that we can retweet it out to the world, because it's a great way to show your support for Missouri Meerschaum as they are showing their support for this show. Pipe question of the week this week comes in from Josh Law. He says, hey, Beau and JD, thank you so much for putting on such a wonderful show. I really look forward to it every week, tuning in to the live show while I work on carving stone pipes, and the podcast during the podcast during my work days in the field. You guys are quite the entertaining duo. So I have noticed this sensation when I'm smoking my pipe. Usually about halfway through the bowl to the bottom, I get a burning or stinging sensation in the back of my mouth, right in my throat. Sometimes the sensation is accompanied by a little bit of a stomach nausea. And I thought it might be the nicotine related, but I usually am smoking lower nicotine blends. So that doesn't seem like it's necessarily the case. It happens with aromatics as well as a lot of Kia Flake blends. Do y'all have experience with this or know of anyone else that does? Sure. Thanks again for the great show, and y'all take care.
Yeah, Josh, great question, and interesting that you mentioned that. A lot of folks are, nicotine sensitive, and all tobaccos are going to have nicotine in them, even if they're really steamed Cavendish or something that's been cooked or processed a lot. It's still going to have that that nicotine component there, and a lot of folks really are sensitive to that. So you're probably getting maybe more than you think you are, and that is something to keep in mind. Even if you're not inhaling the tobacco, you're still, getting maybe a little bit, through the capillaries in your mouth and your nose and things of that nature. So, we have a lot of folks that they love the pipe. They are sensitive to that, and so they smoke a smaller bowl. It's kind of like the guy that they love coffee, but they just drink like a half cup a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar concept, and everyone's different. Everyone's got their own tolerance, their own body chemistry, and all that other stuff. But even the tingling in your throat, I swear a lot of folks. I've got this guy came in the other day. He's like, man, it's just burley. Burley is what makes my tongue bite. It is burley, and I'm sitting here thinking like, man, burley's the smoothest smoking tobacco out there,
right,
But
right.
There's
customers always right.
Yeah, but they are. But then also, you think like, okay, well, that there might be something specific going on to you that
that's true,
the natural sugars in it or some protein or something, I don't know, enzyme, interacts with your body in a way that it just doesn't with most other people. And so, kind of know your tolerance and don't let that ruin it for you.
That's good. Yeah.
I had a guy come in here one time and he gave up pipe smoking for 2 years because a tin of, and we've actually talked about this tobacco before, a tin of Peterson's Irish Flake, it made him sick. And so he just gave it up completely for 2 years. And so he started easing back into it. And I was like, look, just, smoke a small bowl of tobacco or, smoke something more mild or something, not all tobacco is created equal. They have different properties, affect people in different ways. And so he kind of started sticking his toe in the water again. But, it's, I don't know, there's something to be said about, if you need to, just having a small bowl. So
that's good. Yeah. I think know your tolerance is important. Different people are going to be very different in this. I think that's important for everyone to hear too. I mean, like, I think about you and I can't smoke a pipe as often as you do.
Yeah.
Like it's just not feasible. It does not make sense, especially with the way that it kind of impacts my voice and everything else.
Sure.
Like it just does not make sense. I enjoy my pipe, but I specifically like enjoy my pipe on like special events and that sort of thing. And like I plan ahead. This is when I'm going to smoke my pipe. I smoke it. I enjoy it like crazy.
Yeah.
And
then you don't see it for, several days.
I can't do it as a regular basis,
right.
the same way. But again, our tolerance is different. The way that it impacts is different. That's going to be true universally.
Sure.
And so don't try, I think this is especially true to say, especially as we kind of study things like archetypes and we talk about various commonalities in the pipe community. The fact of the matter is there are various differentialities between all of us. Some of us can enjoy a pipe on a very regular basis. Some of us on a very infrequent basis. And that is okay. And so, yeah, that's good word of wisdom there, John David.
Yeah. Interesting point. And, even, talking about the difference between aromatics and Latakia forward blends, it's funny even thinking about this more in depth, even, let's talk about our, folks' tolerance with, let's say, alcohol or something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks are like, oh man, I've got to be on my feet today. I better just drink one beer instead of, a glass of whiskey or something. I've got to, I don't want to go overboard. And for me, it's kind of the opposite. It's like, man, I actually, if I drank one light beer, that might affect me harder than a glass of whiskey. It's crazy. I mean, it's funny how our bodies treat things differently.
And for more stories on how alcohol affects John David,
we'll start a Facebook group or something. Yeah, it'll be right. I'm sure someone's kept a journal out there.
Oh man!
But anyway, yeah, I think those are those are good points, and just find what works for you. And if you're not alone in that, but if you have to, just back off and smoke a half bowl, and that way you only do it to the point where you're enjoying it, and then put it down after that, and you get to look forward to the next time you pick up your pipe.
Absolutely. Great pipe question of the week, Josh. We really appreciate that. Hey, if you've got a pipe question of the week, you can send it in show@countrysquireradio.com. Quick fire question. Ow! All right, man. So more in from Pumpkin Sushi. I love this. Pumpkin Sushi, of course, over at the forums at thispipelife.com. He writes in, blame it on my diet, but here's more food and drink inspired questions.
That's fair.
Hey, we'll take it.
That's great.
Are you ready?
Food. Yep.
All right. Wings, buffalo, or barbecue sauce?
Barbecue sauce, because I'm a pansy.
Yes, and yes.
Yeah, I know. But if you eat wings, you're supposed to eat buffalo sauce, and there's that thing in which, well, you're eating wings. It's supposed to be hot and spicy. You're supposed to, I don't know. I'm a give me barbecue sauce.
Buffalo all the way. Unless I've had a rough night, because I mean, you gotta be careful on your system.
You don't want to, you don't want to, push the envelope too much.
I mean, I think between, in all fairness, I go back and forth on that, but I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go Buffalo all the way. I am remembered of an iconic. I don't know if anybody else remember this. Let me know if you do. But there was back in the early '90s, there was a Domino's commercial campaign for their buffalo wings. And it was gotta be Domino's buffalo wings.
Wow.
And it was
wow.
specifically around Christmas, because it was Santa Claus with his reindeer, but then like a Domino's like delivery truck with like being pulled by buffalo. Like, hey Santa, nice deer, and they like go past him. Curious if anybody else knows that. All right, good transition here. Pizza, Supreme or meat lovers?
I gotta go with Supreme. Well, I mean, Supreme has meat involved, but it also has other things that I like that are not meat. I like meat lovers pizza as well, but I have to go with Supreme. Judge me as you will.
And they will. And they will. I'm going to go with meat lovers. And honestly, it comes down to this. I do not like olives, and Supreme almost always means olives.
Yes, it does. You're not an olive guy, huh?
No, I'm not a fan.
Is it just black olives or any olives?
I've had it like a dirty martini with kind of like green olives. And
yeah,
I was just fine with that.
What about like on a muffaletta?
No,
you don't even that. You don't like the olive spread or whatever.
And I love New Orleans food, but the muffaletta, I'm not.
You're not on board with that. That's probably my favorite of New Orleans just kind of pickup food is that olive salad they put on there, man. Ooh, make it slap your mama.
Fair enough.
It's good.
All right, steak, ribeye, or filet?
Filet
all the way.
Yeah,
got to go with filet. Beer, stout, or IPA?
IPA. I like a crisp, hoppy beer.
Yeah, I've said this before, but it really depends on the season. If we're talking winter, then I'm probably going to go with stout. But even then, it really depends on the mood I'm in. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go IPA. Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, Gushers or fruit by the foot? Oh, okay, yeah. Gushers or fruit by the foot. Do you remember this?
Yeah. I'm going to have to go with Gushers. I like fruit by the foot, but I'm going to have to go with Gushers. There's something real pleasing about, a lot of times I would bite half the Gusher and then kind of eat the little, slimy stuff out of the inside and then eat the other half. I'm just telling you, that's part of my,
that's fine.
Part of my Gusher ritual.
I'm not judging you on
Everyone's
this.
got a pipe ritual, and I had a Gusher ritual.
I'm not judging you on your Gusher ritual. I can't say the same for the other decisions you've made tonight. But
some really terrible ones.
If you put in front of me right now Gushers and fruit by the foot, I would go for fruit by the foot. So I think I'm going to go for that one.
Yep.
I'm not anti-Gushers by any means, but it's classic. I mean, they're both kind of classic. I don't know. Man, awesome. By the way, big shout out to Pumpkin Sushi, who's been keeping us on the quick fire questions for the last couple of episodes. Pumpkin Sushi put those out on the forums at thispipelife.com. Thispipelife.com, by the way, on the move. As you're going around to different events, different pipe shows, that sort of thing going around. John David, you mentioned earlier that you were going to be in Chicago.
Yeah.
Thispipelife.com also there. As you see them, as you're going out to different pipe shows this year, as you see this Pipe Life show up, be sure to go by and let them know you really appreciate them for supporting Country Squire Radio. Also, another great way to let them know is by getting social with them beyond just the forums at thispipelife.com. You can also find them on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. There's all over the place.
And they share some of the most interesting photos, I think, from pipe culture and pipe community. You've got just always some new activity that someone is doing, smoking a pipe, that's coming up on their feed. So I would highly encourage you to follow them, particularly on Instagram. I love their Instagram feed.
Yeah, absolutely. And be sure to register with them too. Of course, when you do, you want to use the code CSR. When you register, it's a great way to help out the show and to let them know that you heard about it on Country Squire Radio. Again, that's CSR when you register at thispipelife.com.
You know that this Pipe Life, they give away an item every month for folks that are involved
every single month.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. So they'll have like a nice pipe or a leather good or something like that. There's a lot of cool stuff going on.
I mean, that's only if you like free stuff. I mean, like,
Yeah,
Yeah, if you want like free stuff, thispipelife.com. Again, CSR when you register there. All right, man, we got some great listener feedback this episode. We've got this actually comes in from James Ewing from YouTube. Now, this is going back to last week when we talked about Native American pipes and pipe tobaccos. What did James say?
Yeah, he says, let's see. Yeah, he says Indian tobacco was known in the Northeast as Kinninak. I think I said that right.
Sounds good to me.
It was a ceremonial mix of tobaccos and natural herbs, including at times cannabis, which grows wild there. By the way, corn is a grain. Corn is a grain. You're right. Since y'all are from Mississippi, you are forgiven.
Yes.
Great show, James Ewing. That's great.
I just the sentence of "since you are from Mississippi, you are forgiven."
That's right.
That's the only time we'll ever hear that ever in our lifetime. And should.
And I don't know. Most of the time it's like, oh, you're from Mississippi. Like, yeah, you just don't know any better.
Yeah,
right?
It's probably good either way. We also got
Which
a great.
Is fair.
It's extremely fair. We also got a great iTunes review in from LL, who said, "A tobacconist from a distance. John David is such a source of brotherly chat and education. My cohort feels he really makes the show. Thank goodness he agreed to do this back when things got started. He's not just welcoming and intellectual, but he's so compassionate. With his co-host. I can see why so many others have made the pilgrimage to the Country Squire. In all honesty, the transitioning to quote-unquote sponsors can be a bit awkward in some episodes, but it's worth it to the unassuming pipe mentorship."
Man, that's great. Yeah, thanks for writing in. We work hard. Yeah, we work hard.
Man, I echo LL completely, man.
Yeah.
I am very grateful for the fact that many years ago you agreed to do this podcast, and that you are so gracious
kicking
with your
and
co-host.
Screaming. Yeah,
that is such nice.
But co-host is pretty solid.
Well, in all fairness, he doesn't have your knowledge, and that's
the co-host is on point. Man, LL, thanks for writing in. That's
absolutely great. And hey, we appreciate those iTunes reviews. If you've not done so already, iTunes reviews are a great way to help support the show without spending a dime. But if you'd like to contribute to make sure that this show continues to happen, you can spend a dime and a few dimes actually by going over to patreon.com/Country Squire Radio or countrysquireradio.com and click join the club. For $3 to $5 an episode, you can become a club member and get a lot of great stuff. But even if you just want to donate $1 per episode, it helps make this show happen. You're not going to find content like this anywhere else. And so if you want it to continue strong, you can make that happen. Again, that's patreon.com/Country Squire Radio. Or if you're listening on the Satchel podcast player, just click be a patron. It's right there on the screen. Really, Satchel is the best way to get your podcast, but I'm
for a variety of reasons.
Variety of reasons. You can also tune in to the show. Now, this is an interesting conundrum that I find myself in because every single episode I talk about when you can listen to the show.
That's right.
I go through a myriad of time zones and such. However, next week we will not be live.
That's right.
But however, next week we will, of course, have the podcast so you can tune in. By subscribing to the podcast, and we hope that you do. We will return for the live show on March 27th at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Again, March 27th, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. You can find us at countrysquireradio.com. You can keep up with us, though, throughout the week. You can follow me. I'm at The Real Beau York.
I'm at John David Cole, or you can catch us at the shop at @_Country Squire.
Of course, all that information and more can be found at countrysquireradio.com. Well, man, we have been talking archetypes tonight. It has been so amazing to get so much great feedback in from you guys, sending in those emails, those comments, those posts. I should have said this at
the memes.
The memes on the live show. We're not even touching those at the moment, but I will say this. I should have mentioned this at the top of the show, and I want to make mention of it now. Big ups, not just to those of you who are listening, but also to the good folks at reddit.com/r/pipe tobacco. Every single time we do a pipe culture episode, of course, we put it out to you guys on Facebook, on Twitter, now with the pipe, the Pipe Club channel on Patreon as well. But I also like to put it out to the folks at Reddit because there's a great community at reddit.com/r/pipe tobacco that are having great conversations about various tobaccos, various pipes. It's an awesome community. And what I love about posting it there is that I always know that we're going to get some pushback. And I mean that.
It's always loving pushback.
Well, see, that's the thing. I do mean that in the most respectful and appreciative way possible, because it's great to have people from outside of the show give their thoughts on some things that we're doing. And so, I noticed in this particular thread, there was a lot of great back and forth, some interesting discussion. I just want you to know that, like, when we get pushback, we welcome that. And
Absolutely.
we are more than happy to take that and take that critical thought as well. So all that to say, check out the good folks, reddit.com/r/pipe tobacco. Great forums, great community there. And yeah, until next week, man, let's go at night.
See you, brother.
All right. There you go, guys. Super long Country Squire radio tonight. An hour and 20 minutes. And then
That's great.
After we cut the feed, that we'll end up recording another 20 minutes that'll go towards the other show as we break this apart into 2 episodes. Man,
always something. Yeah, dude, I had a great time. I hope you have fun in Austin, man. I'm excited that you're going to see our friend James and folks in the Austin area. Get to see Brier Works trunk show there and all that stuff. It'll be really good time.
It's going to be really interesting. I'm getting off the plane and going directly to where I registered for South by Southwest, and then from there I plan on going directly to the cigar. Well, it's a pipe and cigar, but this the shop, and just kind of setting up camp there. And so I'm looking forward to it. You'll find me. I may be wearing a Podastery shirt. I may be wearing a Country Squire radio shirt. I may be wearing a satchel shirt. I don't know, but I will be.
But you will be wearing a shirt.
Yeah, I'll be the short, less than fat guy that I used to be, sitting there smoking a pipe with a giant suitcase.
The bearded lady. I'm just kidding.
Who was that? Was that who was that?
I think that was me, actually.
No. Did you saw the meme?
Oh no, yeah, no. There's some fantastic memeage tonight.
The memeage was off the scales.
Yep.
No, that was Kurt.
Yep.
Kurt. Well played, sir. That burn was solid. That was solid.
Solid burn.
All right, guys. Thank y'all so much.
Y'all have a good night. See you later.
See y'all in a couple weeks.